Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
Pancakes instead of pot roast? That's how I knew something was off. Our family always did pot roast for Sunday brunches, the dry kind my mom's convinced is juicy, just because she dumps a can of mushroom soup over it. But that Sunday, we had scrambled eggs, pancakes, fruit trays. It felt like a setup before it even started. My name's Erin, I'm 31, live in Reston, Virginia, and work as a customs intelligence officer for the Trade Fraud Unit. Most days I spend behind a computer, tracking smuggling patterns and chasing bad data. Sundays, though, those are for pretending my family's normal. That morning, there were over 20 of us packed into my parents' kitchen and dining room. Folding chairs everywhere, cousins balancing paper plates on their laps. I was sitting by the window, cutting melon into tiny pieces I wasn't really eating, when Melissa stood up. She wore one of her linen goddess sets, hair in a thick braid like some kind of retreat poster. Melissa's my brother, Derek's wife. 34, 2 kids, and a new job title every 6 months. Last I heard, she was running spiritual nutrition journeys. The time before that, it was sound healing with copper bowls. She raised her glass of beet juice. "I wanted to share something exciting before we clean up," she said, all chipper. Heads turned, forks paused. My dad muted the TV. "I've officially signed a corporate contract for my holistic retreats," she said. "It's a massive expansion. I'll be running full-scale wellness programs for executives and management teams. This is the big one." A wave of impressed nods moved around the table. My Aunt Carol clapped. My mom smiled so hard her cheeks turned red. Melissa kept going. "It's been months in the making. A huge leap for our business." I caught that. Our business. She used that tone. Smooth, overly grateful, like she was already positioning people to be part of it whether they knew or not. That's the same tone she used when she got Derek to cash out his 401k last year for her mindful movement barn. I didn't say anything, just kept slicing the cantaloupe and watching her work the room. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. She held up a printed flyer, all soft pastels and ocean backgrounds. "We're going to change how corporate America thinks about wellness. This isn't just yoga anymore. This is about full-spectrum recalibration." "Good for you, honey," my mom said, squeezing Melissa's arm. Someone asked about money. Melissa just smiled and said she'd explain in a second, that it was creative financing. I felt something tighten in my gut. I put down my fork, but I didn't say a word. Not yet. Melissa raised her voice just enough to pull attention back to herself. "So, like I said, I needed upfront capital. You can't just scale a business without serious infrastructure. The land alone was nearly half the budget." I folded my napkin in half. Then again, my mom leaned toward her, eyebrows high. "Land. You bought land." Melissa grinned. 4 acres near Middleburg, zoned for commercial wellness use. Already has a barn, 3 cottages, and enough room for a reflexology dome and a juice truck. A couple cousins murmured, "Wow, and that's big time." She nodded, fully in performance mode now. "We're staffing up. Licensed massage therapists, retreat chefs, guest instructors, even an herbalist who used to work with Gwyneth Paltrow's team." I half choked on my water at that one. "And marketing," she went on. "We're rebranding. Think West Coast minimalism meets East Coast executive Polish." Uncle Ron spoke up from the couch. "Sounds pricey. Where'd you get the cash for all this?" Melissa gave him a coy smile. "That's the part I'm most proud of." I didn't take out a traditional loan. I used an underutilized asset. I froze mid-bite. I knew that voice. That's her setup voice. Same one she used right before she convinced her old roommate to co-sign a lease on a juice bar she bailed on 3 months later. "What asset?" I asked, keeping my tone flat. She didn't even look at me. She turned toward the crowd like she was announcing a product launch. "Erin's laptop." You could have heard a fork drop. She laughed like she was explaining a cute story. "Not just the laptop, her work system. It's a secure government setup, encrypted, high-level access. The kind of thing banks love to see. So, I pledged it as collateral on a $90,000 business line of credit." My stomach went cold. My hands clenched under the table. My dad blinked. "You used Erin's computer?" Melissa smiled like this was genius. Technically, it's a government asset tied to her identity and login credentials, which makes it a guaranteed secure item, especially when paired with her access badge metadata. Lenders see that kind of stability as gold. "Smart," my cousin Jay said, nodding. using what the family's already got. That's teamwork, Aunt Carol chimed in. No waste. I looked around the room. Were they serious? You pledged federal property, I said slowly. That's not just using what's available, Melissa. That's a felony. She waved me off. Oh, come on. It's not like I broke into Fort Knox. It's a laptop you barely use outside work. It's just sitting there, high value, untapped. And I didn't give it away. I just used the credentials to prove security. My jaw clenched. That laptop connects to a classified international trade intelligence system. My login is monitored by Homeland Security and flagged for suspicious use. You don't get to offer that to a bank like it's a spare blender. Aaron, she said sweetly, you're so dramatic. I didn't do anything with it. It's just paperwork, a placeholder. Uncle Ron raised his beer. Still, that's damn resourceful. I mean, nobody else at this table has something the bank wants. I stood up. I couldn't sit there and watch them applaud a federal security breach like it was some Shark Tank pitch. I need to go, I said. Enjoy your pancakes. Melissa called after me. You'll see. Once the retreat takes off, we all win. I walked out without looking back. My pulse was hammering. By Monday morning, my stomach still hadn't settled. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Melissa's voice. It's just paperwork. I parked in my usual spot outside the Customs and Border Protection Field Office in Herndon, swiped in, cleared the first badge checkpoint, and walked straight to my cubicle in trade fraud. 8 monitors lined my desk, all humming quietly. I logged in and opened the morning reports. Import/export anomalies flagged over the weekend. Southeast Asia. Counterfeit pharmaceuticals. A spike in smuggled tobacco declared as dental equipment. Just as I started building the alert model, I saw my boss, Carla, step out of her glass office. Her eyes locked on me. Aaron, now. My chest tightened. I stood up and followed her. Carla shut the door behind us. Her tone was flat, urgent. Your laptop was flagged by Asset Protection at 6:14 this morning. There's a digital loan application in your name that references your login credentials as collateral. What? My mouth went dry. No, wait, that's not me. That has to be Melissa. My sister-in-law? She said something. Sit. I sat. My pulse was thudding behind my ears. Carla opened a folder. Loan amount $90,000. Business line of credit. Application attached a metadata snapshot of your CBP-issued laptop, including device serial, encrypted boot signature, and login timestamps linked to your credentials. I didn't authorize any of that, I said quickly. Melissa somehow got access. I didn't know, I swear. Carla stared at me for a second too long. We've already escalated. Protocol requires FBI notification once federal systems are used in private finance, especially with trade clearance credentials involved. I felt like someone kicked the air out of my lungs. She used my laptop as a prop. I don't even know how she got that data. Did you leave it unattended? No, I said. It stays in my apartment. Locked. She might have been there when I wasn't home. She's family. Carla's voice stayed cold. This is a Category 4 breach. Your login links directly to international shipment intel, foreign vendors, and tariff enforcement targets. That's national security level access. This isn't just an internal screw-up. I leaned forward. I had nothing to do with this. She stood up in front of my entire family and bragged about it. I can name over 20 people who heard her say it. Carla opened her mouth, but her phone buzzed. She answered, nodded, then looked at me. FBI is en route. They're handling this as white-collar federal misuse. Your clearance is temporarily suspended. You'll be interviewed today. I nodded, numb. And Aaron, she added, they'll ask why you didn't report it yesterday. I swallowed hard, because I thought it was a bad joke until she doubled down. Then I was afraid if I went off hearsay, it'd look personal. I didn't know the loan actually existed. Carla stood. Well, now we do. So does every agency tied to the secure data network. You'll be looped in until they confirm the breach didn't originate with you. I walked back to my desk slowly. The humming monitors felt louder now. My badge burned cold against my chest. I sat down, hands frozen above my keyboard, staring at my own login screen like it belonged to someone else. An hour later, 2 federal agents walked straight through the main floor of our office and asked for me by name. Everyone pretended not to stare, but I could feel the silence stretch behind my back as I followed them to one of the glass conference rooms. One of them introduced himself as Special Agent McAllister. The other didn't say much, just opened a laptop and started typing. McAllister sat across from me. Aaron Barnes, correct. Trade fraud analyst, clearance level 3 with access to international shipment intelligence and encrypted tariff networks. I nodded. Yes, but I had nothing to do with the misuse of my credentials. I can explain everything. That's what we're here for. He hit record on a small gray device. Walk us through what happened. Start from yesterday morning. I told them everything. The brunch, the announcement, the ridiculous flyer, how Melissa stood in front of 20 people and bragged about using my laptop and login credentials to get a $90,000 loan. I gave them names. Who was there? Who clapped? Who laughed? Who called her brilliant? McAllister's eyebrows lifted. So she openly admitted it. To the whole family. Loud and clear, like it was smart business strategy. The other agent leaned forward, and no one objected. They cheered, called it resourceful, said it was teamwork. McAllister shook his head. That's something. Do you have proof of the gathering? The other agent asked. Any recordings, texts, social media posts, location data? Photos from brunch, probably on my cousin Sarah's Instagram. She documents everything. And I'm guessing someone at that table will fold under pressure. Melissa ran her mouth too loud in front of too many people. McAllister typed something. We're preparing search warrants. One for Melissa's home office, another for the property in Middleburg she mentioned. Do you have a current address for both? I rattled them off from memory. I'd dropped off my niece there plenty of times. And you said she used your exact device serial and login metadata in the application, he asked. That's what CBP's Asset Protection Unit told us this morning. Melissa had no business touching any of that. He nodded slowly. Okay, so here's where it gets official. Your security clearance is being shifted to temporary elevated access for cooperation only. That means if Melissa contacts you in any way, you need to report it within 1 hour. No exceptions, no side conversations. You get a voicemail from her, you save it. Email, text, anything. Immediately forwarded to our field office. I understand, I said. She's blocked now, but I'll make sure I stay ahead of it. The other agent slid a folder across the table. These are the preliminary charges we're recommending based on what we've already confirmed. Unauthorized use of federal property, wire fraud, false statements in a loan application, possible security protocol violation, depending on how she accessed your credentials. And if she used screenshots or copied metadata from my laptop without my knowledge, I asked. That still counts, he said. Intentional or not, offering up secure government access as part of private business financing is a federal offense. Doesn't matter that you're family. McAllister added, what matters now is your cooperation and clean record. So far, we're satisfied you weren't involved, but you'll remain under internal monitoring until we close the loop. I nodded. Just tell me what else you need from me. For starters, he stood. Don't talk to anyone else in your family about this case. And stay out of whatever version of the story she's spinning right now. I watched them walk out past the glass, their jackets catching the overhead lights. I turned to the wall and stared through the frosted edges of the glass, wondering which of my relatives were about to pretend they hadn't cheered her on. I was halfway through flagging a suspicious customs routing in the Vietnam textile files when my phone lit up. Melissa. I let it ring twice before picking up. Her voice came in hot, fast, shaky. Aaron, feds are here, right now, in my house, with boxes, badges, a whole damn van out front. I stood up and walked out of the main office area, down to the back stairwell where it was quiet. Okay. They're taking my laptop, the MacBook, my ledgers. They're opening drawers. They're going through my marketing plans. What the hell is happening? You know exactly what's happening. No, I don't. She snapped. I didn't do anything. It was just paperwork. You didn't say it was a crime. I leaned against the concrete wall. Melissa, I didn't say anything because you didn't ask. You announced it to a room full of people like it was a spa menu item. You used federally issued property tied to Homeland Security systems as a prop for your retreat scam. That's not a gray area. That's black and white federal law. They said wire fraud, she hissed. They said I misrepresented loan materials. Aaron, I put your name because you're trustworthy. It made the application stronger. Why are you doing this to me? I almost laughed. You're the one who forged a financial document with my access credentials on it. In the background, I heard agents moving around, doors opening, boxes shuffling, someone saying, "Start with this one. It's labeled Q1. She lowered her voice, panicking now. "You can fix this. You can tell them it was just a misunderstanding. You can tell them we're family and it was all okay." I straightened. Federal law doesn't give a damn about family, Melissa. You used my government-issued laptop and login data without authorization. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a felony. "You don't get it," she said, her voice cracking. "If this goes on my record, I lose everything. The retreat, my license, the contract with Holistics United, it's all over." "Then you should have thought about that before dragging me into it," I said. "You want advice? Get a lawyer and tell the truth." She started to say something else, but in the background, a man's voice cut through clearly. "Melissa Taylor, I'm advising you that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." She gasped. "Are they arresting me?" "Sounds like they're questioning you under detainment," I said. "Which is step one." "This isn't fair. You work for them." "No, I work for the government. You broke federal law. That's not the same thing." Someone else spoke in the background, another agent, calmer tone. "We need access to the second floor office. Do you have keys to the filing cabinet marked Finance?" Melissa's breath was fast, clipped. I think so? Wait, I don't know. It's in the desk. No, the bottom drawer." I spoke evenly. "I'm hanging up now. I'm required to report this call to the agency. Aaron, please, don't let this happen. Just tell them I didn't mean it like that." "You meant it enough to apply for a loan," I said. "You meant it enough to forge metadata with my name on it. You're not a victim here." I ended the call and logged the timestamp. Then I walked back upstairs, typed out the full conversation in a secured internal memo, and forwarded it to McAllister with the subject line: "Live contact report, 14:27 Eastern Standard Time." By the time I hit send, Melissa's voice was still ringing in my ears. Not confident, not smug, just small. By the time I got home that night, the family group chat had exploded. Missed calls from Mom, Aunt Carol, and two cousins I hadn't heard from since last Christmas. My voicemail was full. Most of them didn't bother with text. They just called and called like I was supposed to fix it on command. I let it sit for an hour, ate dinner in silence, stared at the wall. Then I finally picked up when Mom called again. "You let your sister-in-law get arrested." She snapped. "No hello. No asking if I was okay." "She got herself arrested," I said flatly. "She used government property in a felony loan application." "Oh, come on, Aaron. She's family. You couldn't have just handled this quietly. Called someone. Told them it was a misunderstanding." I leaned back against the kitchen counter. "You don't handle quietly a breach of federal security protocols. There are laws, investigations, paper trails." She dragged me into it without permission. "But she didn't mean harm." I closed my eyes. "Mom, she forged documents using classified access. She made me a liability to national security. You understand how serious that is?" She sighed hard. "I just think this didn't need to become all this. FBI vans, lawyers, court. She's never even been in trouble before." "Well, now she is, because she treated federal equipment like a family coupon." Aunt Carol was next. "You should have told them to drop it," she said, like I had a magic off switch. "You work with the government. You know people." "No one can just drop a federal felony," I said. "This isn't a parking ticket." Melissa was trying to build something for herself, for the family. "You've always been so stingy with your job." She just borrowed a little piece of it. Borrowed. That word hit wrong, like I'd loaned her my Netflix password, not a secured federal device monitored by DHS. The next few days didn't get better. My dad stayed out of it, which told me everything. Derek texted once, "Hope you're happy." I didn't respond. Family dinner invites dried up by that weekend. Normally, I'd get 3 reminders by Thursday. This time, nothing. Not even a passive-aggressive guilt trip. And honestly, I didn't miss it. I didn't miss the small business pitches or the "we're all in this together" speeches. I didn't miss being guilted into reviewing loan applications or explaining why you can't write off your dog as a wellness mascot on your taxes. At work, they ran a full recheck on my background and device usage. No flags, no unusual activity. Every keystroke I'd logged in the last 90 days had been clean. But until the case wrapped, I'd be under double monitoring. Just in case. I was fine with that. I'd rather be scrutinized by professionals than dragged into another family brainstorm about flipping short-term rentals into spiritual detox centers. Late Friday night, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my cousin Amy. "We're doing brunch this Sunday. Small crowd. Just don't talk about the whole laptop thing, okay?" I stared at the screen, then turned the phone face down. I sat in the third row behind the prosecutor's table, 2 seats away from a woman in a pantsuit scribbling notes for some local business blog. My badge was tucked away. No uniform, no agency tags. I wasn't there as staff. I was a civilian witness now. Melissa entered through the side door with 2 U.S. Marshals. Hair pulled back in a limp ponytail. No jewelry, no flowy linen wrap or handmade leather sandals. Just a wrinkled tan suit that hung off her like it didn't belong to her body or her life anymore. She didn't even look at the benches, just walked straight to the defense table and sat without making eye contact with anyone. The judge came in, a tall guy with no patience for theatrics. The first thing out of his mouth was, "We're here for the matter of United States versus Melissa Taylor, docket number 3429-FC on charges of wire fraud, unauthorized use of federal equipment, and fraudulent misrepresentation on a loan application." I kept my eyes forward. My hands were folded, still. The prosecutor laid it all out in calm, brutal order. "Your Honor, the defendant submitted forged documentation claiming access to Homeland Security-controlled intelligence systems as financial collateral for a private business venture." He held up a printout. "This is a signed loan application submitted through Taylor's Wellness Company. It includes device data, login ID logs, and digital access credential references belonging to her sister-in-law, Erin Barnes, a federal employee." He didn't stop there. He had receipts, literally. They entered over 70 pages of evidence into the record. Photos from brunch, the flyer, the 22 statements collected from everyone who'd been there, all of them confirming the same thing. Melissa said it, bragged about it, and never once denied it until after the agents came knocking. I didn't need to testify that day. They said it wasn't necessary, not yet. Her lawyer stood and mumbled something about the loan not being finalized, about lack of intent to cause harm. The judge shut it down in under 10 seconds. "Intent is clear when a person pledges government access credentials in a financial transaction," he said. "The moment she typed that information into an application, she committed a federal offense." He turned to the bail request. Melissa's lawyer asked for supervised release. The judge didn't even blink. "Denied," he said. "The defendant leveraged access to a classified federal system for personal gain. That poses a risk to both security and public trust." When the gavel came down, Melissa slumped in her chair like air had left her body. After court, I walked out into the hall and passed by 2 former clients of hers I recognized from Instagram. One of them held her phone up, scrolling through what looked like a wellness partnership termination email chain. Her retreat website went dark the next morning. Contracts pulled, deposits frozen, influencer posts deleted. The same people who applauded her at brunch were now publicly unfollowing her online. At the office, I stayed quiet and kept my head down. I'd been cleared of wrongdoing, but I was still under heightened monitoring for a year. Any outgoing messages flagged. Laptop use double logged. No remote work for the foreseeable future. Carla gave me a nod one morning and said, "You handled it?" I didn't say anything back. Melissa never once looked at me in court. Not before, not after. Not even when they cuffed her again and walked her out. 8 weeks later, we were back in court. Same judge, same chairs, same stiff air. Melissa walked in wearing the beige jumpsuit. No makeup this time, just blotchy skin and hollow eyes. She looked 10 years older. Her hair was frizzed out in every direction like she'd given up on keeping up the wellness look. The judge didn't waste time. He flipped through the papers in front of him like they were a grocery list. "Melissa Taylor," he said, "you've been convicted of wire fraud, unauthorized use of federal equipment, and intentional misuse of classified system credentials in a financial transaction." She stared straight ahead, no flinching, just blank. "This court sentences you to 36 months in federal prison, followed by 18 months of supervised release. You are also ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $122,643. Someone behind me gasped. The judge didn't even pause. That includes the full loan amount, investigative costs, system monitoring, and upgrades required by the Department of Homeland Security, and a portion of the legal overhead incurred by the U.S. Attorney's Office. He looked directly at her now. Crimes involving federal access credentials aren't just financial violations. They strike at the heart of national trust. You used your relationship with a federal employee to fake legitimacy, and you announced it like it was an achievement. That wasn't cooperation, that was criminal manipulation. Still nothing from her. Not even a twitch. The prosecutor didn't speak. He didn't need to. Everything had already been filed. I stayed in the back row this time. No one asked me to speak. I wasn't on the stand. I wasn't a victim. Just the person she dragged through this mess. On the way out, I passed her parents in the hallway. They nodded at me but didn't say anything. My mom didn't show up, neither did Derek. Later that night, I checked my email and saw a scanned copy of the sentencing document. My agency sent it to confirm case closure on my end. I filed it in the secure drive, logged out, and sat in silence for a while. Melissa's letter came a week later, handwritten, 2 pages. She said she was sorry, that she didn't understand the rules, that she thought family would count for something, that she thought I'd vouch for her, that she panicked when the business hit a wall and thought her intentions would matter more than the paperwork. I read it once, folded it back up, tucked it into a folder at the bottom of my filing cabinet labeled Legal Family. Never responded. The calls started again after that, from the usual group. Aunt Carol said Melissa should have gotten probation. My mom said I was being cold. But a few others, quiet ones, called and said they hadn't realized how bad it was until they saw the sentence. That maybe Melissa got carried away, that maybe I'd done the only thing anyone could have done. I didn't argue either way. I just nodded along, kept my answers short. Some of them were still trying to pick a side. I'd already picked mine. After the sentencing, the monthly brunches didn't stop, but they definitely shrank. The last one I showed up to, there were 9 people. No cousins from out of town. No folding chairs stacked against the wall. Just a quiet pot of scrambled eggs and nobody making eye contact. They barely talked. Especially not about money. Not about business ideas. Nobody asked me to look over a side hustle pitch or co-sign anything or help figure out if something was technically legal. Honestly, it was the most peaceful brunch we'd ever had. No one dared mention Melissa directly, but she hovered in the air like a second centerpiece. Every time someone asked how work was going, they'd follow it up with, I know you probably can't say much. Which was true. My old laptop was locked away as evidence. Agency protocol. They issued me a new one. Tighter encryption, new access protocols, stricter timeouts. It felt cleaner, like a reset. I didn't ask where the old one ended up. Probably sitting in an evidence room next to boxes of forged customs forms and counterfeit ink cartridges. I kept my head down at work. I was still on import-export fraud, still flagging anomalies in shipping routes, catching undervalued declarations, tracing phantom vendors through shell addresses in Jersey City. Same job, same desk, just more eyes watching me now. Family-wise, I started skipping events, not out of spite, just because I didn't feel like sitting through sideways glances and long silences. When I did show up, nobody asked for favors anymore, not even simple ones. Once, my dad pulled me aside and asked if I could just contribute a little something to Melissa's commissary fund. Said she liked the protein bars they offered. Said it'd mean a lot to keep her from going hungry. I had to remind him, calmly, that I wasn't allowed to send anything. My agency barred me from financial contact with any party involved in an open or recent case, even after sentencing. He didn't say anything after that, just nodded and walked off. My mom tried once too, around Thanksgiving. It's just a few dollars. It's not like you'd be helping her scheme. I looked her dead in the eye. You want me to keep my job or not? She didn't bring it up again. Melissa wrote another letter. I didn't open it. I dropped it in the file with the first one. Truth is, some people only learn the weight of a rule when the door slams behind them. When it's too late to say it was just family, just business, just a misunderstanding. My badge stayed where it belonged. My laptop stayed on my desk. My credentials never left my hands again. And my family. They finally learned that being related doesn't give you clearance.